خودش تو برام خود کرد تهران. آقا 3 روز رسید تهران. 3 روز. بودن اگه بخوام 5 روز برسه من نیستم تهران. یعنی اومدم اینجا. اون میرسه. بوده دیگه چه یعنی همه این کارا رو کرد.
یه چیز جالب واسه بگم.
تهران کارمون تعطیله بخاطر کی بخوره کی نگاه کنه. اونایی که بعدن این فیلم رو نگاه کنن این میگو پاسپورت و سرعت و آهو و کلم و به خودم چی میده نه؟
آره قاطی داره. اینجا استکهلم مرکز شهر و یکی از بهترین خیابان‌های استکهلم به نام استراندوگن که بغلش هم این طرفش هم کنار دریاست. کشتی‌ها میرن میان جاذبه مختلف. سیاه برزنگی
Hela publiken i Kungsträdgården, jag vill se händer upp i luften nu! Och vi ser hoppa!
Filma mig!
All the way in the back! Here we go! If you wanna take kisses in the night, jump for your love. So jump out on these times that makes you happy. Jump out on these eyes that feed you up. So jump if you wanna take kisses in the night, jump for your love. Herregud. Mår ni bra? Vi har köpt en sån här kamera. Det är ganska onödigt nu när det fanns en där stor kamera. Ramsa. Så vi tänkte att Stockholmspubliken ska lära sig idag. Tillsammans med Patriks Bostrom.
Är den här 6 laxar i en?
Ja. Är det någon som kan den? Det kommer växa ganska hårt. Så här går det. Ni säger efter mig, okej? Marmelad, säg marmelad. Publiken säg En gång till, säg marmelad, säg marmelad. Publiken säg marmelad. Ja, det är fantastiskt. Applåder från Henrik Didriksson från Hökarängen. Ja, det är okej. Det känns som att vi har på något sätt bildat en liten familj nu. Jag vill att ni nu inte klappar i takt utan sträcker upp höger hand i luften. Vi ska idag på något sätt vinka till bandet. Vi börjar här borta. Alla sträcker handen hitåt. Så långt ni kan. Jag vill kolla om ni är med. Say wow!
شهر استکهلم این کشتی تمام جاهای دیدنی شهر رو نشون میده. البته ما پیاده همه رفتیم دیدیم می‌کنیم که باید توی آب بزنیم. مدتش 2 ساعت طول می‌کشه. و نزدیک 200 ساله که این شهر قابل بهره برداری شده. حالا من اینه گوش کنیم چی میگه.
Century. Many house spacious apartments with up to 20 rooms. At the turn of the millennium, an apartment on Strandvägen could cost up to 50,000 kroner per square meter. In 1997, she was named Swede of the Year. Upon being told the news, she surprisedly exclaimed, "I can't understand how you could let me be Swede of the Year. Look at me, I'm blind, deaf, and half mad. We better keep quiet about this, otherwise they might think all of Sweden is like me." This self-confessed blind, deaf, and half-mad person was Astrid Lindgren, one of Sweden's best-loved children's authors, and not only in Sweden, but also in many places around the world. There isn't a single Swede who doesn't know who she is, and those who haven't read her books will probably have seen the films or TV series. Over 89 million copies of her books have been sold, and her stories have been translated into 76 different languages. Her most well-known characters are Pippi Longstocking, Emil in Lönneberga, and the Brothers Lionheart. You can meet these characters and many more at Unibacken, a cultural centre for children on Djurgården, right next to the Vasa Museum. We'll be coming back to the Vasa Museum later during our trip.
این پیکساره میکنه.
through the ages been to a large extent dependent on those transport goods. The white steamboats from the end of the 1800s are a much-loved feature of Stockholm, both among the locals and visitors. For decades, these vessels used to play an important role in the public transport network in Lake Mälaren, as well as out among the islands of Stockholm's archipelago. The period round the First World War is the golden age of steamboats. Lift inaugurated in 1909. Uppsala, Västerås and Enköping. We're not exactly sure how Stockholm was founded. A legend tells us that when the former capital, Sigtuna, a few miles north of Stockholm, was sacked by Estonian raiders in the 12th century, the people of Sigtuna hid their valuables in a hollow log and threw it into the lake. They vowed to build a new city wherever that log drifted ashore. The log was said to have hit land at Riddarholmen, which is on our right now. Stockholm is said to lie between two waters, between the sea and a large lake. That is true to the extent that it was man who built the locks that divided up one body of water into two. Cafeteria is now open, where you're welcome to buy various refreshments. To the right is the City Hall. It's the red brick building with 3 golden crowns on the top of the tower. While we're on the subject of the 3 crowns, when you say 3 kronor, meaning 3 crowns, many Swedes think of the successful Swedish ice hockey team that has the same name, the Swedish national symbol. 3 Crowns was from the beginning the name of the castle in the old town, and the crowns are also on the Swedish royal coat of arms. They turn up again on the City Hall Tower because the City Hall was built during the Romantic era. The architect, Ragnar Östberg, wanted to emphasize and glorify what was typically Swedish, but he was also impressed by the Italian Renaissance, which we can see on the arches on the waterfront. The City Hall was inaugurated in 1923. Normally, the City Hall is the workplace for Stockholm's politicians, but on the 10th of December each year, the Nobel banquet is held here. Politicians, royalty and former Nobel Prize winners are invited to the banquet. One of the rules is that each Nobel laureate should sit next to a member of the nobility. Alfred Nobel invented dynamite, and a donation in his will was the basis for the Nobel Prize that was awarded first in 1901. The Nobel Prize is the most honorable award scientists and writers can receive, and every year there is an immense... One example is the roundabout at Karl Johan Slussen that we passed through a few minutes ago. Västerbron is another example, being the focus of considerable attention in its day. Its design was so advanced that engineers were brought in from France to help with its construction. The bridge is 1.6 kilometers long, the longest of Stockholm's 55 bridges. To the left of us now is Långholmen, the site of the city jail up until 1975. It was established in the beginning of the 18th century, when Sweden was at war with her Nordic neighbours. The army's uniforms were in tatters, and it was more for this reason that the prison was located on Långholmen. Workers were needed. For a long time the jail was referred to as the mill, because Stockholm's destitute women, beggars and orphans were taken there to card and spin the wool, which later went into the army's clothing. It was a hard life. The inmates were woken up at 4 in the morning and would often have to work until 9 at night. In the 19th century, the mill was turned into an all-male prison and continued to be used until 1975. To the extent that any jail could be popular, Långholmen was. Nobody incarcerated here wanted to be moved to another prison. One reason was ease of escape. Also, most of the prisoners were from Stockholm. Are open for all. The prison is a hotel.
در خدمت شماییم. اسلام گفته گزش مفته سلام آبرو سرش خوب شدم
Sweden's birth rate is slightly below the European average, at 1.5 children per woman and childbearing age. The figure has been falling steadily since 1990. Sweden's life expectancy is one of the highest in the world, 75 for men and 81 for women, and is indicative of our high standard of living. When a regular census was first introduced in Sweden in 1749, the population was estimated at around 2 million. By 1860 it had risen to about 4 million, doubling again by 1970 to 8 million. Today, the population is 9 million. During the 19th century, the rural economy was unable to support the growing population. Sweden became a land of emigrants. For about 50 years after 1860, around 1.3 million Swedes sought to escape from starvation and poverty by emigrating, mainly to North America. Sometime each winter the water beneath our boat freezes over, and Stockholmers go for walks on the ice or put on their ice skates. There are big differences between the seasons in Stockholm, not just in terms of the climate, but in light and darkness. In the winter, the sun goes up late and sets early. During the day, we have daylight between 9 and 3. In the summer, the situation is reversed, with the sun going down at 11 at night and up again by 3 in the morning. Further north, the sun never sets in the summer. We're often called the land of the midnight sun, but there is one disadvantage. If the sun never sets in the summer, then this means we never get to see it at all, but did not get a fixed link to the rest of the city until 1928. During the 19th century, Stora Essingen was much sought after by the more affluent Stockholmers. They built luxury summer houses on the island. Industrialization had turned Stockholm into a dirty, polluted and unhealthy city. But it had also created a wealthy upper class able to afford to breathe fresh air and build these summer houses. As early as the 1700s, day trips to Stora Essingen had become popular among Stockholmers. It was at this time that the 18th century troubadour Carl Michael Bellman frequented one of the taverns on the island. Bellman sang about the Stockholm he saw in the 18th century, but we still sing his songs today at parties, usually, and appropriately, along with a little glass of something. Today we laugh at his lyrics, but there is no doubt that they strike a chord deep in Swedish hearts. But at the time the church was less impressed. Bellman wrote about Stockholm's underside, with tragic insight. But he was also outrageous and provocative. In his drinking songs he painted the Bible's holy men as tipplers and described the lower classes as they were, without any spin or cover-up, warts and all. But that was not all they disliked. Another thing that agitated the church was Bellman's Order of Bacchus. The members of this order were among Stockholm's biggest drunkards and were elevated to this elite fraternity without their knowledge or their approval. Bellman was fascinated by orders and societies, but the finest ones were only open to those belonging to the highest echelons of society. Bellman was not one of them. He was a lowly official, without background, without a future, and without any wealth. Nor did he have a reputation to worry about. So he could lose nothing by forming his own society, this order of Bacchus. So he duly did so. In Bellman's time, Stockholm was a filthy city, with social conflicts, prostitution, alcoholism, and was ravaged by disease. Then as now, the taverns were important meeting places, and like many others in his time, Bellman indulged himself on credit. He earned some extra money by entertaining King Gustav III, but when Gustav III was shot dead, Bellman got into serious financial trouble. He tried to escape from his debtors, but was arrested. Shortly after his release from prison, he died from bronchitis and was buried in Klara Cemetery. Bellman's wife and child survived him, but he left them nothing. Instead, it's Stockholm that now has a priceless cultural heritage.
حاجی نشون بدم بگم نه استکهلم فکر نکنم اونا سریع رفتن نه انشالله اینا رو بهش نشون بدم بگم نه کن با من نیومدی اطلاعات دقیق و خوبی گرفتیم در مورد
Swedish exports of all times, bottles of absolute vodka. When L.O. Smith was confronted with competition from the Stockholm Municipal Licensing Company, a great schnapps war broke out. Smith sold rectified spirits, high-purity schnapps at low prices, while the licensing company's schnapps contained fusel. Smith also offered his customers free trips from the island of Riddarholmen in Gamla Stan to his distillery on the island of Reimersholmen. At its peak, L.O. Smith had 4 ferry boats running his 25,000 guests backwards and forwards. Turnover plummeted at the Stockholm Licensing Company's establishments. The war ended when Smith sold his firm to the licensing company on condition that they only distilled neat schnapps. After that, Smith devoted himself to international affairs. These ruined him, and he died bankrupt and embittered. For a long time, anything to do with alcohol in Sweden was run by a state monopoly. The monopoly was abolished when Sweden joined the EU. There's been an open market in alcoholic drinks since 1995. 300 firms now have licenses to import alcohol, and special design and is one of the oldest bridges in Stockholm. Årstabron was built in the 1920s and is one of Stockholm's railway bridges. Beneath the bridge is Årsta Island, an island with no fixed link to the mainland. It's said that a man once lived here. In the spring and autumn, when the ice was too thin to walk on, but too thick for a boat to cut its way through, he got his food in a rather special way. A woman who lived on the mainland took the train once a week and threw a bag of food down to the man as she passed over Årstabron.
که مربوط به 200 سال پیشه که این بیمارستان رو درست کردن.
Great European city. Palaces and ostentatious homes built by the nobility and wealthy businessmen began springing up. No longer would people sneer at the shabby little city in the middle of nowhere. Soon the city's canals were lined with elegant palatial homes. Many of them were directly on the waterfront, with grand flights of steps leading to their own jetties. Stockholm, which once had not counted for much in the eyes of the world, had in less than 100 years undergone a transformation. It now offered a magnificent sight for those approaching it, as we're doing, from the water. The city was still small and rural, however. To our right, we'll soon see a yellowish-brown building which is an old hospital. Back in the middle of the 16th century, King Gustav Vasa ordered the lepers and mentally ill to be moved there because he couldn't bear the stench of the hospital in the city. The building we see now doesn't date from that time. It was built in the 18th century.
این چیزه رو به پس کله است. تو بریم. اینجا مرکز راه آهن یوسواری.
این طرف سنترال استیشنه، اون طرف ساختمان مرکزی اداره آرده، این طرف هم که میره اونیو. اینجا این جای دیگه نیست که به اونیو میگن خیابون، اسم خیابونه اصلا اونیو.
استی جون وایستا یه عکس بندازم. خیلی ممنون.
تعلق به خودتون داره. بر بده گشتاس.
اینو برای گشتاس بخرم. بزرگشو یه دونه از اینو براش بخرم.
از خودمون بگیم.
اینجا یوتوبری کلیسای ماهیه که به اینکه دعا بکنن ماهی میخورن.
اینجا اگه هم دعا کنه بهش
خدا ماهی به واسش نازل میکنه اگه کسی دعا کنه. چی جنه قربان اما ماهیه خوشگلش بگه ببینی چیجوریه. چی بالا میسر. بله آره خواستی هیچ کلمه تا حالا برای این درست نکردن که بوی ماهی ها همه میگن میشنوی. اینا همینو میگن. تو
میگن حس میکنی خاصیش هم درستش
بوی ماهی میاد. فکر کنم اسانس ماهی به اینا میزنن نه؟ سگ ماهی خاره اینجا بایستده نکن مخواستم سگی کمک کرده ماهی واسش گرفته.
چاقو اونجا داره و لامت داره خاک
ماهی
میزنه میشه.
این هم کلیسا ماهیه. من شبیه کلیسا ساخته شده. ماهی فروش ها
یعنی جای توریستی کلن.
انواع اقسام ماهی ها رو داره. بیا خرچنگا ببین. بگی میگو خرچنگای بزرگ. اینم لاوستره. اینا خیلی خوشمزه است. خیلی اونی که دیشب هم خوردیم خوشمزه بود. الکی الکی این بود. فکر کنم این بود نه؟ اصلی شبیه این بود ها.
سیل آره
واه دنیای ماهیه. ساندویچ میگو. این خرچنگا خوشگلن. بعد دفعه به دنیا اومدن میکنه که ما بخوریمشون.
این زنده است که اصلا داره تکون میده پاش راست.
زنده است. اونم زنده است.
آره.
همه تو زنده است. بکنم فقط چیزاشون رو بستن.
بستن.
اینا ماهیه چیه که توش اینجوری نارنجیه داخلش نارنجیه؟
انگلیسی سالمون اینا.
ماهی سالمون خیلی ماهی خوشمزه یعنی ما خوردیم اونا.
از ایران؟
ایران نیست، توی هواپیما غذا که ماهی سفارش بدید ماهی سالمون برات میارن. چنده بعد؟ این خاویاره؟ اشبله ماهی. میگه درش تو سه چیز نور الهی بغلقتو میرزا قسمی اشبل ماهی. نم اشبله دیگه.
اونم بیفای ماهی ها.
قرار بوده که شما فقط دوربین هستون باشه اتو مانیتور ببینید. این دفعه گردن ما حالا شما این دفعه دنیا رو در مانیتور ببینید. اینجا بافت قدیمی یوتیوبریه. شما بیار من فیلم برداری میکنم.
برای یه اشکال دوربین بردن این آدم حواسش به فیلم گرفتنش عکس گرفتن.
آره دیگه بعد فیلم میبینم. من همیشه هواپیما رو میگیری یه سوچی بودم بافتمونه رو خیلی گرمه ولی زمستوناش خیلی سرده تغییر هم خیلی میشه بریم اونجا از اونجا عکس بندازیم ما وقتی اومدیم بیرون ها ولی تو رستورانش اگه خوشگل بود چون مداری کنیم کشتی هم که ملاحظه میکنیم کشتی های تفریحی هستن هم که قایقای شخصی و اینجا هم بزرگترین رستوران یوتیوبریه در واقع به صورت بوفه است هر چقدر میخوایی میخوری و یه پول ثابت میمیدی
اومده این سری اگه میتونم به یکی بکشمش اینو جایی که اومده اینقدر داده اصلا تقریبا سبک شده گرونه 1,900,000 میشه 1,100 یورو 11,000
اینجا هم این مدرس گرونتر هم حتی 25,000 کارا اینجا هم
ولی با آنم بده خب میاد آقا خوب خوردی یا هر نوع ماهی که تو دنیا بود امروز خوردی
پلوپ میخوردی؟
من که سیر بودم
آره والا واقعا شانس آوردیم با هم شدشون 60 پست از قرار داده سیر بوده سر و جون فدای شکم بخور
این گلدن گیت سان فرانسیسکو ایشالله بومید یه سان فرانسیسکو دعوتت کنم
دعای محمد آمریکاییه
ادامه تکازه شروع میشه این کله اولش